Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? Hope everybody's doing amazingly well. Welcome back to another amazing lesson of English with Ashish. And guys, today in this lesson we are going to break down complex sentences. We are going to understand what complex sentences are, how to use them, when to use them, how to form them, and everything about them. So make sure you watch the lesson until the end. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Let's do it. Alright everybody, now let's understand what exactly a complex sentence is. A complex sentence is a combination, an amalgamation of one or more dependent clauses, right? So it has one or more dependent clauses and just one independent clause. One or more dependent clauses and just only one independent clause, which is also known as a sentence. So the dependent clause that you have in a complex sentence either works as an adverb, an adjective, or a noun. Understand it again. The dependent clause that you have in a complex sentence either works as an adverb or an adjective or a noun. That's what it does in a complex sentence, or any sentence for that matter. All right. Now let's take some examples and understand them. Example number 1. We can't hire you because you're asking for too much money. We can't hire you. So this is my independent clause, right? It has a subject, a verb phrase, and the object, right? This is my independent clause, right? It's independent because it doesn't depend on anything. It has a complete meaning, right? Now, because you are asking for too much money is my dependent clause. It is not complete. It doesn't give a complete idea on its own. Because you're asking for too much money. So what? It raises a question, right? And that is why it is a dependent clause. So here in the sentence, it is working as an adverb. It is working as an adverb modifying the verb hire. Telling us why. Why can't we hire you? We can't hire you because you're asking for too much money. And this is an example of a complex sentence, right? Let me remove this. It has an independent clause, this, and it has a dependent clause, this, right? And the dependent clause is working as an adverb. It is working as an adverb modifying the verb hire, letting us know what the reason of the action is. All right, let's take another example. None of us knows where she lives. None of us is the subject of this sentence. Knows is the verb. Knows what? Knows this, where she lives. So this is again a complex sentence. How? So guys, see, this is going to be a little tricky, but I'll make it easy for you guys to understand. So none of us is my subject, right? Doer of the action. Subject. Knows is my verb. Stative verb. Knows what? When you ask knows what? None of us knows what? Where she lives. And this is my object. This is the object of the verb. Object of the verb knows. Knows what? Where she lives. And the object is basically a dependent clause. A dependent clause. The object of this verb knows is a dependent clause. So this is just one sentence if you look at it closely, right? Let me remove this and let's look at it again. So it is just one sentence. None of us is the subject, right? Subject. And this is the verb, right? And this is my object of the verb, object. But the object itself, this object is a dependent clause. Right, working as a noun, working as the object of the verb knows, right? So we have two clauses here. This one clause, independent clause, and within this clause, within this independent clause, we have a dependent clause as the object of the verb knows, right? And the dependent clause is working as a noun here. Now another thing, guys. See, look at it closely. Subject, verb, object. Can I take out this dependent clause here? Would the sentence still make sense? I should not. Grammatically, the sentence would make sense. None of us knows. Yes, that's okay. I have a subject. I have a verb, right? It's fine. That's how we form a sentence. but it doesn't give a complete meaning, right? It misses something essential, which is its object. None of us knows what, right? Which is where she lives. So sometimes the dependent clause in a complex sentence is essential to the sentence. It doesn't have to be all the time, like we saw in the last example. So we can't hire you because you're asking for too much money. So we can take this piece of information out and the sentence would still be fine. We can't hire you. That's okay. We can't hire you. Okay. But here in this example, the dependent clause is working as an essential part of the sentence. Okay. Something that you should actually note. Let's take another example. The man who came to see me yesterday was asking me to help him with his communication skills as he needs to clear the IELTS exam. Okay, let's find out the independent clause and the dependent clause or clauses if we have more than one dependent clause. Okay, okay. The man who came to see me yesterday seems to be the subject of this clause. Was asking, verb phrase, asking me what to help him with his communication skills. Okay, so this is a complete clause. As, this is a conjunction. As subordinating conjunction, he needs to clear the IELTS exam. Now, before I explain anything, this is something that you guys should note. All the dependent clauses start with a subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunction, I'll show you a couple of subordinating conjunctions, some common subordinating conjunctions. You have them on your screen: because, as, if, in, case, unless, until, before, after, as soon as, right? All these conjunctions you see on the screen. So these are some common subordinating conjunctions. Let's come back to our example. So once you understand subordinating conjunctions, you're able to identify dependent clauses, right? Because all the dependent clauses start with a subordinating conjunction. Okay, so this was my first clause, right, till here, and this was my second clause. The man who came to see me yesterday was asking me to help him with his communication skills. Why? As he needs to clear the IELTS exam. So we seem to have two clauses here, right? One independent, this one, and the second one dependent, as it starts with the subordinating conjunction, as. So we have two clauses here. Is that the case? No, that's not the case. We have more than two clauses here in this complex sentence. How? Let me teach you how. Let me explain how. So in this first clause, the man who came to see me yesterday was asking me to help him with his communication skills. Let me break down everything first. So this is my subject. The man who came to see me yesterday, right, was asking, this is my subject of the independent clause, right? This is my verb phrase, was asking. Me is my indirect object. Me what to help him with his communication skills is the direct object, right? Me is the indirect object. So this is what we have in this independent clause. Now, another thing that you might be missing. Let's remove this first. The man, which man? Who came to see me yesterday. So in this subject, in this noun phrase, if you see, this is the main noun, simple subject, SS. We have a clause, we have a dependent clause. Who came to see me yesterday? This is a dependent clause. Dependent clause working as an adjective, giving information about the noun man. The man, which man? Who came to see me yesterday. So in this independent clause, we have a dependent clause in it working as an adverb, giving information about the noun man. So we have two dependent clauses. Number one here working as an adjective. Number two here, this one working as an adverb. How? The man who came to see me yesterday was asking me to help him with his communication skills. Why was he asking me to help him with his communication skills? As he needs to clear the IELTS exam. So this is giving us the reason why he was asking me to help him with his communication skills. So this is working as an adverb. Get it? So here in this complex sentence, we have two dependent clauses and one independent clause. We can have more than two dependent clauses if we want to. 3 or 4 or 5. That's possible. I'll show you going forward. Alright? Now let's understand positions of clauses in a complex sentence. Where can we have them? Let's understand this. So you can start a sentence with either a dependent clause or an independent clause. So let's just focus on one clause and we'll understand the other one. So the dependent clause can come at the beginning, at the middle of the sentence, or at the end of the sentence. Let's understand this with some examples. Number one, if I were you, I would take the job offer. If I were you, hypothetical, I would do this, I would take the offer. This is independent independent clause. Let's just call it IC. Okay. If I were you condition, if I were you, I would do this. So this is my dependent clause. Let's call it DC. If I were you, I would do this. So here the dependent clause is coming at the beginning. When the dependent clause works as an adverb and comes at the beginning of the sentence, we use a comma right after it. If it is working as a noun, the subject of the clause, you don't have to use a comma. I'll show you with some examples. So if I were you, I would take the job offer. In what scenario I would do this? In this scenario, working as an adverb, right? So coming at the beginning. None of us wants to talk about what happened yesterday. None of us, subject, wants, verb, wants what? To talk about what happened yesterday. This is the object. So subject, verb, object. Within this object, which is basically an infinitive phrase, to talk about, preposition, about what? About this, which is a dependent clause, right? About what? What happened yesterday, about this, right? So this is my subordinating conjunction working as the subject, happened is the verb, yesterday is just a modifier adverb, and this is working as a noun. This is working as a noun, object of the preposition about. None of us wants to talk about what happened yesterday. Let me just clear this real fast. Okay, about what happened yesterday. Okay, and this is coming at the end of the sentence, and it's not working as an adverb. So whenever your dependent clause works up or works in any way and comes at the end of the sentence, you don't need a comma. Okay, third example. Let's remove this. Okay, the lady who took my interview was very rude. The lady who took my interview was very rude. So this is my subject, this is my verb, and this is my subject complement. Subjects, verb, subject complement. The lady, which lady? Who took my interview? This is the lady I'm talking about. So this is an adjective clause, right? Dependent clause giving information about the noun lady. The lady, which lady? Who took my interview? So it's coming in the middle of the sentence, right? Let me also teach you one thing. If the dependent clause works as an adjective but gives non-essential information, right? We use commas to offset it. So I can say, let me give you an example. Let's just say example number 4. Rohan, who is my school friend, comma, works for Samsung. Okay, so see, this is just a sentence. It's a complex sentence. Let me explain you how. So Rohan is the subject, works is the verb, for preposition Samsung's object. But we have a dependent clause which is giving information about Rohan, but it's giving non-essential, non-restrictive information because Rohan is already identified. So that is why we're using commas to offset it. Rohan, who is my school friend, works for Samsung. So this is also a complex sentence where the dependent clause is giving non-essential information working as an adjective. So this is what a complex sentence is. It's a combination of two clauses, dependent and independent. You're going to have just one independent clause and one or more than one dependent clauses, right? And all the dependent clauses start with a subordinating conjunction. Okay, you can have one dependent clause, 2, 3, 4, or as many as you need, right? Okay, let's do one thing. Let me show you an example. Let me make an example right in front of you. Let's take an example. Okay, let's take the first example. Okay, let's take we can't hire you because you are asking for too much money. Okay, let's take this example. Okay, let's clear this first. And okay, we're gonna change this one. All right, let's do it. So what can we do? We have two clauses here. We can't hire you because you're asking for too much money. Now let me teach you how you can have multiple dependent clauses in a complex sentence. How you can do that. So see, all you have to do is instead of using an adjective, you can use an adjective clause because that's a dependent clause. Instead of using a noun or a pronoun, you can replace it with a noun clause, a dependent clause, right? And instead of using one word adverb or an adverb phrase, you can use an adverb clause. Okay, so we can do that. So we can't hire you because you're asking for too much money. So let's change it to the company that I work with, so this is the subject, that I work with uh, can't hire. So this is my first dependent clause. The company that I work with, sorry, this part is my dependent clause that I work with. The company that I work with can't hire you. So instead of using just a word as the object, I can use a noun clause. So I can say the company that I work with can't hire who you have recommended uh, recommended. The company that I work with can't hire you, who you have recommended. Okay, this is our first independent clause because um, because let's say he is asking for what. So he's asking for, instead of using a noun phrase too much money, I'm using a noun clause. He's asking for what he doesn't deserve, right? Okay, so see what I've done. So let's identify the independent clause and the dependent clause. First, the company that I work with can't hire who you have recommended. Okay, why can't they do it? Because he's asking for the candidate, right? The person you've recommended. He's asking for what he doesn't deserve. So so in the first clause, in the subject, the company that I work with, which is a post modifier, is a dependent clause. So number one, okay, let's change the color. Okay, first dependent clause, can't hire who you have recommended. Second dependent clause, working as a noun, again working as an adjective. Okay, because so this entire thing is working as an adverb because he's asking for what he doesn't deserve, right? Working as an adverb starting with a subordinating conjunction because he's asking for what he doesn't deserve. And in this dependent clause, because he's the subject, is asking for verb phrase for preposition. This is the dependent clause, another working as the object of the preposition for. He's asking for what he doesn't deserve. So first, second, this is the third entire because he's asking for what he doesn't deserve. And within this third, we have another dependent clause, what he doesn't deserve. And I can continue doing it. I can keep adding more dependent clauses if necessary. So I just wanted to show you guys that you can have as many dependent clauses as you want in a sentence if needed, right? It's not just one independent and one dependent. Okay. So I want you to do one thing. I want you to visit my website. Yes, this website. And we have a beautiful book also ready. The science behind using tenses, all the tenses we have in the English language. Amazing book, right? So you can buy this book. It's going to change your life. I promise you that. So yeah, coming back to the topic, you should go through this post about complex sentences, right? It has so many examples. It tells you everything about complex sentences, right? Complex sentences with one independent clause, two dependent, one independent, three dependent, right? And everything, whatnot. You ask for it, you'll get it. Okay, so I want you to go through this post and what, and nothing else, man. That's it about today's topic. We are done, and I want you to like the video if you liked the video. If you didn't, that's okay. If you learned something new, I'm glad. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to it and share the video with others. That's gonna be good. And I'll see you guys very soon. Till then, keep learning. Have fun.